right? So on this first quadratic equation, it looks like the A, B, C, right? So what I will do above here is just write down those values, those the coefficients, right? C is equal to -9. So you have A, B, C. Notice that there is no x squared. You just write down the values of them. It could be 0, right? So based on this, I look at A and it's negative. So I'm expecting this graph to point down. If you just look at the value itself without the sign, this would be a wide. It'd be a wide because A is between 0 and 1. Okay. Here A is negative. So you look at the sign for this, you look at the actual value for this. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to find all of these things here. So I'm going to grab my calculator and enter that into y1. Okay. So here we go. I use brackets, -1/3 x squared, right, plus 5x minus 9. Okay, so I type that in and I hit graph. And based on what I had, my window, it's not looking too good, right? So I always like to start from scratch, okay? Unless you're comfortable with changing your window already. Oh, sorry, folks. You're looking at me, it's like, why am I not seeing anything? Okay, sorry. I never turned on the projector, folks, so I'm just gonna wait a little bit. It's Friday, right? So we're not running on all cylinders. So it's going to be a wider curve, right? So it's going to be pointing down and it's going to be spread out to the side. So chances are your x min and x max are going to have to be expanded, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press zoom 6. Okay, this is what I see. You may not see this, and you have to be comfortable with that. So zoom 6 gets us all back to this. And I actually do see part of the curve, but I want to see more that way to the right. So I'm going to ask the class here, what do I need to change to see more this way? Which value in my window? X max, right? I can't even see with masks, I can't even read your lips, so you're going to have to tell me X max, that's right. So X max, you can double it. See, you kind of, I'm going to go back to the graph. I'm kind of thinking if this is 10, if I put 20 in, like it will double, it will literally show another 10. That should be enough. But you can also triple it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and triple it. So I'm going to go 30 for X max. Doesn't mean you have to, right? If you chose 29, you're okay, right? And if you chose 20, you're also fine, right? Most likely. But here now you see pretty much the whole thing. And here's your y-intercept, your x-intercept, another x-intercept, and your vertex. You want to see the vertex, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and find the vertex. So always second trace, okay? So second trace, and we have a max, right? We don't have a min, we have a max in this case, at the highest point. So we choose that fourth option. You can just press 4 or use your arrows to select that option. Hit enter. And now again, your focus is on, I'm going to use my pencil here. Focus is on that vertex, and the calculator is saying left boundary. So go left past the vertex till it starts going down a bit. That is now, you're now selecting a point to the left. So hit enter. Then it's asking you to find a point to the right. So we go over to the right, hit enter, and whenever it says guess, we always hit enter. It's basically just asking you, should I start? The computer will start finding, and there's that vertex, which is 7.50 and 9.75. So we write that down, okay? but we're going to indicate the keystroke. Second trace, and we chose the max. You can put down 4, I know, right? I would know, or just max. And so the vertex is 7.5 or 7.50, 9.75. Okay, so that's how you find the vertex. And then these two can be answered by just looking at that. Okay, and in this case we have a max, and that is y is equal to 9.75. The axis of symmetry is the vertical line that cuts it in half, and that is the x value, so 7.5. The x-intercepts, I'm going to write down my steps already. y2 is equal to 0, second trace 5. Okay, so 0 there, hit graph, second trace 5. I'm going to go over to this one first, hit enter, enter, enter. So that's 2.090, okay? So I'm going to write that down. 2.090 is my first x-intercept. And then second trace 5 again. Now I'm going to go over to the other side and then hit enter, enter, enter. And that is 12.910. So these are your two x-intercepts. Now, I wish I could replicate this, but I can't. If you ever, if you see a bunch of numbers here and then you have an e to the -9 or something, that is actually 0 for us. It's so small that we don't consider it anymore. So sometimes students don't see the e at the end, and then they write down, oh, it's 12.91. It's like, wait a minute, no, e to the -9, it literally is saying this number times 10 to the power of -9, which is a really, really small number. Okay, so be aware of that. Most of the time, they're pretty good at just giving it 0, but sometimes it doesn't. So in this case, you knew that this had to be 0 because you're looking for the x-intercept, but sometimes it throws a weird number here, so students just write it down without thinking, okay? So don't do that. Y-intercept, it's just 0c, right? Which in our case is 0, -9. You could have used your calculator, right? Second trace 1, x is equal to 0, and it's -9 at that point. Okay. Domain, it's just all real numbers. Okay. My range in both notations, right? Look at this, right? Y is never going to be bigger than the top here, which for us is 9.75. So my range will always be less than or equal to 9.75, or your -infinity to 9.75 square bracket, round bracket. That's how you would do that. And now we're going to graph it. The funnest part of all. Okay? So, to graph it, of course, you can use your calculator to guide you, but I am going to do this by hand, okay? I'm going to grab my ruler, and I want to focus, right? I want to have my focus on these two quadrants here, obviously. So, okay, so you start with your y, and you go x. Okay. And notice that your vertex is 7.5, 9.75, right? So you need to have enough room to fit that in. So if I go up by 2s here, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? That should be fine. or if you want to go 5s, that's completely up to you, right? So 5, 10, 15, so it'd just be a smaller scale. So I go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And for my y-intercept, I need to be able to fit -9 here. So if I go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that should be fine. So -2, -4, -6. And you would use the same scale going this way. 2, 4, 6, 8. And I'm going to do one more here. This is 10, of course. And using the same space, I'm just going to make sure that I'm going -2 this way, just to keep consistent here, keep this consistent there. So 7.5, this would be 7 right here. 0.5 would be a little over, and then you go up almost to 10, but not quite. So this is my vertex, 7.5, 9.75. Okay. My y-intercept is right here. So you can label that already. And your x-intercepts, are going to fit those in. Oh, I see already we're going to have a little bit of a problem with the x-intercepts, right? So the first one is 2.09, which is just over. So 2.090 for that one. And the other one is 12.91. So I told you have to be comfortable with that. So we're just going to extend it a little bit. So this would be 12 and this would be 14. So obviously if it's a fixed grid that I'm giving you, you have to choose a scale that works, right? If you know it stops here, then maybe go up by 3s or by 4 or by 5, whatever. So 12.91 would be, this would be 13 in the middle, so just over to the left. So it's 12.910. And then you start. Don't go straight to the x-intercept here, okay? This is your vertex, you want to curve it, you want to go sideways and then try to do something like that. And just go light at first, okay? So there it is. And then do the same thing this way. Just go sideways a bit and then curve down and like that. That's fine. And there it is. You've graphed it. I would like to add, I'm not going to ask you to do this. I'll be very specific if I do ask you, but I'm going to graph the axis of symmetry using a different color. This is x is equal to 7.5. This is my axis of symmetry. Okay. And then I also have my max, which is also the line here. I use a different color for that one. I like to have them dashed because it's easier to see, right? So this line is the line y equals 9.75, which is the max. Okay. So basically, right, the axis of symmetry and the max in this case, where they intersect, that's your vertex. And I should also mention that the distance from this line to either side is always going to be the same. So this stretch should be exactly the same as this stretch. That's why we say it cuts it in half. Okay. How's this? Let's do the next one. Might be a little bit more challenging here. Okay, B. That one is y equals 7/8 x squared plus 50x plus 15. A is 7/8, B is 50, C is 15. Okay. This one will be pointing up, points up, right? And it's wide, right? Why is it pointing up? A is positive, it's wide because A is in between 0 and 1. So I expect that to happen. So vertex, min or max, axis of symmetry, x-intercepts, if there are any, y-intercept, domain, range. There it is. So let's go ahead and type this in first. Seven eighths x squared plus 50x plus 15. We graph that. And I'm going to turn off the second. Just going to clear that second equation, just graph that. And you saw that you just see a line, right? That's part of the graph. It's hard to see. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go zoom 6. So think about it. You're seeing this arm going this way. It essentially gets closer to the y-axis, crosses it, and keeps going. Where do you think the vertex is? Like if you could complete the puzzle of this graph, you would have to say this thing is pointing up. It's pointing up this way. So then your conclusion should be, okay, then the graph is doing this, right? Because if this had been pointing downwards, then now you're thinking, okay, it's going like this, right? But it's not, it's pointing up. So my conclusion, based on the little bits and pieces that I'm seeing, it's this way, okay? So how about we first focus on trying to find the vertex. So we're gonna go to our window, and we're gonna change the y-min significantly. I'm not just gonna go down by another 10, right? I'm gonna go -50, okay? And I'm gonna hit graph. Oh, I'm seeing more, right? So, but you can tell you're still gonna have to go down quite a bit. So you just keep looking for it, right? It's almost like an expedition, right? You have to keep looking for it. So let's go ahead and everybody should just try on their own right now. Don't look at what I'm doing. Just try to decrease y-min until you start seeing more. Okay, so I'm gonna double that. I'm at -100 and still not seeing it. So now I'm getting impatient. Now I'm gonna go -500. Okay, I'm starting to see that hundreds at a time is just not doing it. So I'm gonna go graph again. And now it's starting to level off, right? It's not doing the steep decrease. So I need to now see more this way, okay? Now I'm done with y-min for the time being, and now I'm going to go further that way. So that is x-min that you need to decrease, okay? So we're going to go window, x-min, and I'm just going to go -100. And as soon as I go -100, I'm actually seeing quite a bit more. I'm seeing that second arm of the parabola. Okay, so that's good. I still need to see the vertex. So I got to go back to y min. And I'm going to go negative 750 or something like that. And there it is. So watch, if you're lost with my window, I'm going to write it down here. Negative 100 to 10, negative 750 to 10. Right there, you already have quite a bit of information. The y-intercept seems to be right there, so I can kind of see all the, if you want to see more above it, I would do that actually if I were you. So I'm going to go window and change the y max to, let's say, 100, something that's comparable to what I already have. I'm in the hundreds here, right? So now you're just seeing a little bit more, and it's easier to see the x-intercepts. So actually, let's change this value to 100 here. Okay, so the y max, I changed that to 100. Did it make sense how I did the window? Yeah? Okay. At home, I'm hoping you're following, right? It's not easy, but you can investigate, right, and find out. It all started with the notion that we could tell that this thing is pointing up. Okay? Because when you see a little bit of that curve and it's going this way, you had to predict that this is the shape that you're expecting. Okay? So now let's find the vertex. We're going to go second, trace, min. Okay? There's a minimum here. There's a low point that you're reaching. So second, trace, 3. That's your vertex. I want something to the left of the vertex. You're already there. You are to the left. You might not be. If you're not, just keep scrolling until you're left. So hit enter. And then we're going to go to the right. So I'm just going to press and hold. Now we are to the right of it because that's what it's asking you to do. Enter and enter one more time. So it's 28.57 negative, right? Negative 28.57. And it's negative 699.29. That's what I mean. If you have a calculator, we can ask for questions that are more difficult, right? In this case, there's a min, so it would be y is equal to negative 699.29. It's just the y value of your vertex. The axis of symmetry is the x value. This one has 2 x-intercepts, so we're going to go y2 is equal to 0, second, trace, 5. So y2 is equal to 0, hit graph, and we're going to go second, trace, 5, go as close as possible to the first one, hit enter, 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 and that is negative 56.84. And it's 0. Okay, we'll get the second one. We're going to go all the way over to the second one, and then hit enter, 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 and that is negative 0.300. Okay, my y-intercept is just 0.15. Domain, I try to mix them up. Domain and range, right? That's your domain, or don't forget, you can always use this one. And for my range, y is always greater than or equal to the lowest y value that you can possibly get to. So the lowest you get is this, and from there you're just going up, or to infinity. There it is. And now we're going to graph it. And obviously we're now focusing more on the third quadrant here, right? That's where most of the graph is going to be in. So you can kind of try to replicate that. X, Y. Okay. So here you have to be careful with your scale, right? Because your vertex is at -28, right? Somewhere here, and you have an x-intercept of -56. So if you go all the way to -60, then you have all the x values you need, right? So I'm looking at my x-intercepts essentially first. So I'm going to go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, right? And I'm only going to label every second one. And I'm just going to go this way, 10 like that, because every mark indicates 10. And for my y axis, I need to have, if I go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, that's not going to work. So I'm going to go 250. So -250, -500, -750, minus -1,000. So that's the scale that I'm using because I'm running out of space here. So I go up, I'm going by 250s here. So up here it's 250 there. All right, so the vertex, I'm going to label that first. So it's -28. That'd be 30 there, so 28 is right there. And then basically -700. So I'm going to go down to right about there. And we're going to label that. Okay. And then the other x-intercept is at basically almost at the origin. And then we have 56. 55 would be there, so this is -56.840. And my y-intercept is 0.15. So somewhere in here, I'm going to try to plug that in there. So you go like this, past that, and there you have your curve. Right? So a lot of work, but in grade 12 applied, there's tons of graphing as well. So you need to be comfortable getting your graphs. And I'll tell you what, the main components you need would be vertex and intercepts. If you have your vertex and you find all of the intercepts, you're good to go, right? Graph needs, right? Vertex, intercepts, right? And obviously the equation. If you can have these three components on there, then you're good to go. So for the rest of today's class, and I have a feeling that you're not going to have enough time to completely finish this. The rest would be for homework, okay? So try to find this handout that you picked up from me. If you didn't get this, okay, then I will try to find the PDF and post it on Google Classroom under today's date, Friday, September 18th. I'll put that up there. So this is your homework for Monday. Oops. And I will post the answer key today as well. I'm going to schedule it to show up sometime this evening. I just have to take pictures of it. Do you all have it? Yeah? Okay. At home, I hope you all have it. I'm pretty sure I've seen you all. There might be a few that don't. If you don't have it, I'll post it and then try to do it on loose leaf, right? And then when you get the actual physical copy, you just attach it. So take the rest of today's class to work on this. Those of you online, stay online, okay? And then I'll wrap it up at the end with some more instructions.